All right. Well, today we're going to be discussing project closure. And when we're talking about project closure is the final phase of your project's life cycle. Project closure is the point where where you and the team confirm that the work has been completed, all deliverables have been accepted, documentation has been finalized, all your resources have been released, and your lessons learned database have been captured. Right? Many people think a project is finished when the final task is completed, but not in project management. Finishing the work and formally closing the project um, aren't always the same thing, right? So project closure makes sure that the project ends with with clarity, accountability, and proper documentation. So you need to close the project because it just shouldn't simply just fade out into existence, right? Without project closure, organizations, can be left with, unanswered questions. Um, some of the questions could be, were the deliverables accepted? Was the budget finalized? Were vendors paid? Were contracts closed? Were project documents saved? Um, were lessons learned, was it recorded? Were stakeholders informed? When the project closure phase is skipped, continues after the project is technically finished, right? Team members may not know if their responsibilities are complete. Stakeholders may still expect work. Leadership may not receive a final report. Future project teams may miss valuable lessons that can help them avoid the same mistakes. A strong project manager, you should understand that how a project ends is just as important as how a project begins. Now, one major part of project closure is confirming that all deliverables have been completed and accepted. You know, a deliverable is not truly completed just because the project team says it's done. It must meet the agreed upon requirements, the quality standards, and the acceptance criteria. For example, if a business hired a project team to create a new employee onboarding program, the final deliverables might include training modules, might have some facilitator guides, some employee handouts, assessment tools, and a launch report. Before closing the project, you, the project manager, should confirm that each deliverable has been reviewed and accepted by the appropriate stakeholder. This prevents misunderstandings later. If stakeholders sign off on the final deliverables, the project has a clear record that the agreed upon work was completed. Project closure also includes administrative and financial activities, right? And it's going to include finalizing invoices, closing contracts, releasing project resources, archiving project files, updating records, and completing final performance reports. For example, if a company completed a website a redesign project, the project manager may need to confirm that all the final website files are delivered. All the vendor contracts are closed, invoices are paid, passwords and access rights are transferred. All documentation is saved for future reference. And I've been involved in that before, and I can tell you it is a headache especially when all the passwords and access rights wasn't transferred correctly, and the owner of the website can't even access their own website, right? And the vendor that actually completed the project disappeared, right? And so it causes a lot of issues, you know. So closing it correctly protects the organization. It ensures that important information doesn't disappear when the project team moves on. It also helps prevent future disputes over payment, ownership, incomplete work, or unresolved responsibilities. Because um, I've seen it to where some vendors didn't get paid, right? Because the project wasn't closed out correctly. So closure it may not always be or feel exciting, but it is essential for accountability and professionalism. Now, we talked about the lessons learned and knowledge transfer. That's big for me. And as a project manager, that should be big for you too, because successful and good project managers learn from previous lessons, right? Lessons learned are insights that about what worked well, what didn't work well, what should repeat it, and what should be improved upon in future projects. So, to build your lessons learned database, as a project manager, you should be asking what went well during the project. What challenges did we face? What risks became real issues? What will we do differently next time? What recommendations should we pass on to future project teams? This step is important because every project creates knowledge. That's why I call it your knowledge database. And if the organization or the project manager, you don't capture that knowledge, you're going to repeat the same mistakes, right? So to become a good project manager, be successful in project management, you've got to develop your lessons learned database, even if it's just for you, right? For your knowledge database. Let's say the organization doesn't do a lessons learned, but you as a project manager should be doing a lessons learned regardless, and should be turning that in as part of your final project, as part of your final report. Lessons learned, is going to help turn your project experience into organizational learning, which a lot of organizations need that, right? So let's use a real world example. Let's say a company wants to launch a new product, right? The project included product development, packaging, marketing materials, sales trainings, inventory preparation, customer support scripts, and launch communication, which is all part of launching a new product. Once the product launches, the team may feel like the project is complete, but proper closure still needs to happen. Just because the product launched doesn't mean that the project is complete, right? So as the project manager should confirm that all launch deliverables were completed. The sales team received their training, marketing materials were approved, customer service, they received their scripts, inventory systems are updated, vendors were paid, and the leadership received a final project summary. The project manager should also gather the lessons learned. Was the launch timeline realistic? Were customers prepared? Did the sales team have enough information? Did the inventory meet demand? Were there communication gaps? This project closure process helps an organization improve its next product launch. Now, project closure is a formal process, again, like I said, of ending a project responsibly. You need to, understand that it includes confirming deliverables, gaining acceptance, closing financial and administrative items, releasing resources, archiving documents, communicating final status, and capturing the lessons learned. So understand and think about this. A project is not truly complete until the work is accepted, the records are finalized, and the lessons are captured. Strong project managers do not just start projects well, they finish them well, and they finish them with clarity, accountability, professionalism, and learning.